Education is often spoken about as what's required not only in South Africa but for the world to ensure that we're sustainable and that we address some of our immense problems. And Graeme, I'm really interested in some of the crazy, or what people would think are crazy, ideas that you have, particularly from a private school perspective, that we should be looking at in the next couple of years.
So, Carel, obviously, you know, part of what I do for a living is try to look at future trends, and it strikes me a few of those give us some hints.
Yeah.
The first is demographics. You know, people are going to live longer than they thought they would, and so when they hit retirement, they're the youngest, healthiest, richest retirees ever.
Yeah.
So why don't we get some of these retired people in their 60s and 70s back into the school system? Most of them don't need to earn much more than a little tip at the end of the month. You know, we give them something. But imagine we could take somebody who was the financial manager of a large bank, or who had been the secretary at an accounting firm for 20 years. Give them a little bit of training. I don't think you just throw them into the classroom, but maybe an academy that the private schools can all fund together. A little bit of like an HDB Ed type of diploma. And then put them into the classrooms. Maybe private school classrooms, but I'm also thinking across the board in government schools, townships, everywhere.
So why I like that is because you could use teachers who are at retirement age to do some of the training for the non-teachers, impart some of those skills, which would be fantastic on their part. And understanding that education, you don't have to be a teacher to teach, that all of us can play that role. And looking at people who've had a career, they over the some of the idiosyncrasies as you're building a career or progressing, over that, been there, done that, so they can focus really on their core expertise.
Some of them, I think, might be good enough to become teachers in their own right. Some may just be a teaching assistant. But I think that all of them would have huge value. And I think we could attract them, because I think many of them in their 60s and 70s are thinking of giving back, are thinking of their legacy. And this could be huge.
And wanting to contribute to children and grandchildren, other people that are in that. Do you think there's an opportunity to perhaps do this, not just in the physical space that you're talking about, which is important, but some online ways that this could happen?
Well, I think that's another of the crazy ideas that we could have. I'm sure most of the teachers in schools know Khan Academy, online, coming out of India. Why don't we do something like that in South Africa, where maybe every private school builds a little video studio, students, pupils, and some of these people coming out of the world of work all get involved in putting together short videos that are then made accessible to everybody. It can be a revenue stream monetized through YouTube, or it can just be made freely available and then, of course, accessible to everybody in every school.
Yeah, what I find interesting is at many of the schools, well, all the schools, it's such a strong community, and so you've got teachers involved, you've got parents involved, you've got alumni involved, the kids. Many of the private schools have got strong church links, so you've got these communities that you can build on, but our sense is that often private schools feel the need to be more isolationist, if I can make up that word, and hold information and stuff close to them. So again, I'd be interested in some of the thoughts and ideas that we would have around collaboration and working with. Do you think that's possible and worthwhile?
Well, I think it is happening, and Graeme, we obviously compete against each other. I'm on the board of St. Mary's in Waverley, you're at St. Stithians, and we're competing for teachers, we're competing for families and pupils, or girls at least. And so there is that level, and I think that's always there. But both you and I are in the business world where competitors also collaborate. And I really do, I agree with you. I think this is something that especially the private schools can learn. That if we collaborate on the areas in which we're not competing, especially core education in South Africa, I think we'd have a lot as private schools to add to the education community in the country.
And raise the playing fields for everybody, So, I know, for instance, at St. Mary's, and we can pick any school, but, at St. Mary's particularly strong in terms of some of the IT, ideas that you guys have had, brought by you and others, and developing that. So that's a competitive advantage for St. Mary's, which I think is fantastic. But how can we collaborate as other schools learn, contribute, improve that even more? And so the expression that I like is, we must compete without stabbing each other in the back, so raise the playing fields. St. Stithians can still be better than St. Mary's, or the other way around. But
in certain things.
Yeah, exactly. But work together and really just improve that. And I think, and this is something that I know you're passionate about, and I am as well, is how we can use private schools and the privilege that we have and the benefit that we have to also improve, leverage influence schools in our communities. Broadly.
And for me, I think that's where the easiest collaboration is possible, that we talk about ways in which each of our schools is already contributing, because we all are, learn the lessons that are there to be learned, and then collaborate and get those economies of scale when we work together. So I'm very excited. I don't think that those ideas are hugely controversial, but I know that some people in a more traditional schooling mindset might think they're a bit crazy. Maybe we've inspired a few people to think about school differently.
Yeah, so maybe one question, Graeme. What is the best thing that you got out of your education? Because it's something that I've thought about. What do you want your kids and the people that come after you, what is the thing you want a school to teach them? What's the one thing that we would come up with?
Gee, that's a fantastic question. But I think the answer is that I feel equipped to deal with whatever life throws my way.
Yeah.
And some of that was developed on the sports fields. Some of that was developed while I was being bullied.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're not saying that should be part of the curriculum, of course, but we're saying that we know that a lot of what you develop at school is developed outside of the formal curriculum. And I think that's where private schools need to be focusing their attention on, that holistic development of somebody who can handle whatever comes their way.
I agree with that. And so education is going to have to provide kids that are going to operate in a South Africa, in a world that's very different. We don't know what that's going to be like. We've got some good clues from you and others. But let's educate our kids to not only cope, but thrive with whatever comes their way.
And let's take some of what we know is coming in the future, those demographic shifts, those technology shifts, and let's pull those into the schools right now.
Great. Looking forward to education really making a difference and using our private school network to contribute.